You're listening to the Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.
Welcome back to the Muckrakers with me, Andrew Eborn, and my very special guest, Professor Gloria Moss and Robert Bullock. And we're looking at alternatives to war, winning without war. And I want to touch on the fifth generation of warfare, which is conducted primarily through non-kinetic military actions such as social engineering, misinformation, cyber attacks, and so on and so forth. How concerning is this, Gloria?
Well, of course, it's immensely concerning because fifth generation war has the potential to cloak, to envelop, let's say, the minds of populations, not just a single population. And there are certain narratives that the mainstream media, for example, can put out. Robert will talk a bit about the mainstream media, and not just the mainstream media, but education as well. And I've done a study of secondary school textbooks, and my conclusion on looking at British secondary school textbooks was that this was tantamount to an indoctrination system. I'm not exaggerating. There was a French textbook that was used by a student at Oxford University, and just about every other chapter had the message, the World Economic Forum message. You can be happy whilst not owning anything. And I was looking with disbelief, incredulity at this textbook. But every chapter was rolling out this message. You don't need to own a house. You don't need to own a bike. No, it's fine. You can own nothing and be happy. So it's straightforward World Economic Forum propaganda that was being downloaded into that A-level standard French textbook. And that prompted an investigation on my part into school textbooks right across the syllabus curriculum, from sciences to history to humanities. And the conclusion which one was forced to reach was that the textbooks are to children what the mainstream media is to adults. So they help spread a particular brand of information. Some people might call it disinformation. As you say, a definition of fifth generation warfare is the spreading of information and shaping how people think. And parts of the British Army are actually dedicated to pursuing this, remarkably enough. And we've all heard of the 77th Brigade, for example. On their website, they actually write that their mission is to implement, quote, new forms of warfare in the information environment. And this is why it's so critical at this time to reform education and the mainstream media. And TNT is right up there in what it's doing in that respect. But we also need to reform education. I could say a bit more about that later. And we need to reinstitute the thing that is lacking from so much education, which is the power of critical thinking. This isn't an advertorial. This is an important book. I happen to be co-author of it, but it's of its time, I think. We need to reinstitute critical thinking. OECD study back in 2022 found that only 45% of new graduates, they've previously been undergraduates, only 45% demonstrated critical thinking.
It's a fascinating statistic and quite alarming, isn't it? And I do urge, as you say, the thing we do here on the Muckrakers and TNT generally is we're here to question everything. We want to make sure that voices are heard so people can have informed debates and reach informed decision. Talk about the mainstream media, because I dance across more platforms than Paddington. It is interesting in the different roles that they play.
Critically analyzing global affairs. The Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.